First up on deck, ESPN dropped their list of their top 25 players under the age of 25. And this list is based not on players in their current standing, but on their future potential. And on that list, we have Luka Doncic coming up at number one, followed by Zion Williamson, LaMelo Ball, Donovan Mitchell, Jayson Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, Ben Simmons, and Devin Booker. And there's some other notable players on the list, including Jamal Murray, John Morant, Trae Young, and Tyrese Halliburton in varying orders. So I just want to get your take on the list. And as far as the rankings go, did they get it right, or are there some squabbles you have with it?
So I think for the most part they got it right, but I'm actually very annoyed with the list. It's another example of, ESPN just looking down on my Knicks, saying you guys don't matter, you guys don't have talent, you guys can't even, scrape together a good playoff run season. And it's like, why are you guys hating? Isn't their headquarters in New York or Connecticut? Close enough, like we should get some tri-state love. They got my man Michael Bridges, Domantas Sabonis, Anthony Edwards, and Tyrese Halliburton above RJ Barrett, the number 3 pick last year, and a guy who's statistically across the board has improved, and he's just completely left off. Yeah, I get it's future projections, but at the same time, this man has shown an ability to learn from his mistakes and has gotten better in every statistical category from year 1 to year 2. And he's been completely snubbed. And he's like 20. And it's like, if this is about future projections, you really think Michael Bridges is going to be the next Kawhi Leonard or something like that? You think Domantas Sabonis is going to suddenly at some point become better than what he already is? He's a great player, but I think we've kind of seen his ceiling as a post up rebounding 4 that can kind of stretch but not really. And Anthony Edwards is just a bowling ball, barreling down the court, who's slightly better in shooting. I could get into everything and really break it down, but overall, I'm just a little annoyed that my man RJ didn't get on the list, but that's okay. We will, he's going to use it as continued fuel. He didn't make the rookie team, either the rookie teams last year. He didn't make this arbitrary list this year. And if history serves correct, he's going to take that as fuel and motivation to get better and better. And next year, he's coming. Best believe. The other issue I had with this, not really an issue, is more of an annoyance because my Knicks had the chance to draft several players on this list. Like I remember when we drafted Kevin Knox, it's like, okay, a guard from, a wing from Kentucky who has some potential to really do something special. And we passed on both Michael Bridges and Miles Bridges, who are both better this year than Kevin Knox. And not just are they better, but Michael Bridges actually made number 17 on this list, which kind of, it's endlessly infuriating to see that while Kevin Knox is riding the Tom Thibodeau bench in the doghouse. And there's definitely some controversy in the top 3 of this list, but I'm gonna leave that to you.
Okay. That is the most blue and orange take I have seen on this list since I've been following the story. That was a very Knicks tinged take, but I definitely did notice RJ's omission. I think he does rank ahead of some of these players on this list, particularly like you said. I think there's guys like Edwards and Halliburton that you can't entirely be convinced that they're like head and shoulders above RJ. I think right. Sabonis has shown that he is, an all-star. So him already being an all-star, if you rank RJ ahead of him, that kind of suggests that you believe that RJ will be a multiple time All-Star, which for me is up in the air. You know, I would bet on it. Like if I had to put money on it, I would say that RJ was going to be an All-Star and a multiple time All-Star at some point in his career. But I don't have an issue with Sabonis being ahead of him. And I think with Mikal Bridges, I think it's more so about the team he plays for as well, because Phoenix is in contention right now for the first seed in the West, and he's a important part of their team. So I think they
All
see
due to Chris Paul, by the way. All due to Chris Paul. The Chris Paul effect is real. We'll see
it
what
is,
his
but
career goes after Chris Paul leaves.
it is, but his importance to that team can't be understated because you do have a scoring guard in Devin Booker, and you do have the ultimate table setter and point guard and professional in Chris Paul, but you need guys that surround those two players with that have the qualities that Mikal Bridges has. And but yeah, I do think that RJ being left off the list is egregious, but I don't think that it's the most egregious thing on this list by any
Okay.
stretch of the imagination. And for me, that's the LaMelo Ball ranking. I want
Okay.
to preface this by saying that I like LaMelo Ball a lot. I think he's one of the most exciting players in the league already in terms of his ability to pass the ball. And he's also shown that the weaknesses that he displayed during his time as a professional in Australia that he's really worked on. His shot mechanics are a lot more stable. He's hitting the three-pointer at a way higher rate than anyone thought he would this early in his career. He's one of the league leaders, I believe, in deflections also. So it shows that he's actually competing on the defensive end, even if he is making rookie mistakes. But and I say he's also a generational passer. He's one of the best passers in the league already because of the fact that he can make so many different kinds of passes that no one else can make. But I do think that it's a little premature because with rookies, they often have stretches of really good NBA play, but as the season wears on, or as defenses adjust to them, or as the scouting report gets out on them, their performances can taper off. So it's uh it's a little premature for me for them to put him on this list so early when we don't know what he's going to look like over the full course of a couple seasons. I think it's fine to rank him in the top 10, but I don't like the idea of ranking him over Jayson Tatum, who's an elite scorer and an elite two-way player in the league, or a Devin Booker, who is a 20 plus point per game scorer on a winning team. And I just don't think that he's necessarily going to be definitively better than those guys, or you can say that at this moment. Even a De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is having an amazing season. He's putting up, I think, like 25 and 7.
Yeah.
And he's had elite production because he plays for Sacramento. He's not getting the love that he deserves. But I just think that LaMelo's ranking is a little bit premature to put him behind a guy like Luka Doncic, who is one of the best players in the league and who could go down as one of the best players that we've ever seen, and Zion Williamson, who we've discussed on past podcasts, who is
Young Mac Truck, by the way.
young Mac Truck, who's a dominant force on the inside and is currently been putting up, I think, like 30 something points a game for the last month. So I think it's just a little bit premature on LaMelo. Not saying he won't be on that level, because he definitely has a chance to be, but I just think it's a little bit early on the ranking because he is. And I think it's also, I think with ESPN, you also got to be aware of the whole clickbait factor.
Yeah.
Every year they come out with these rankings and there's always outrage because they know what they're doing. They know that if they put one player a little bit too high or too low, that they're going to get fans and observers in, a bit of a tizzy. Like Zach LaVine was ranked below Lonzo Ball at the beginning of the season. So, I mean, that's kind of what is a good indicator of the kind of motivation ESPN has when they post these lists. But what do you think about LaMelo and the rankings overall?
LaMelo, I think they're trying to really extrapolate future potential. And I think they see LaMelo as this kind of game-changing presence on the court who can impact the game on a level of a Luka.
Mhm.
They see his adaptation to the NBA game, NBA speed, and his progression from Charlotte trying to kind of almost take their time with him, keep him off the bench to the point where his talent was so good and his production was so good that they literally could not keep him on the bench. They had to have him as a starter, and his ability to create, his ability to shoot, his ability to finish, showing all the more tools than Lonzo at his age. And they're like, hey, we have to project in the future. He's 19. Luke was 19 in his rookie season, and was doing things that were, you really didn't see from a 19-year-old. So if we put him in that same category, we could see him being a perennial all-star. But big but yeah, to put him just 2 spots behind Luka and in front of guys who have shown playoff potential and greatness, and in a Jayson Tatum, in a Donovan Mitchell,
Jaylen
is
Brown
kind of,
is 12.
yeah. I mean, Jaylen Brown, I think that for some of these guys, I'm like, okay, I can see a clear ceiling. I can see that they are good, but I don't think that they're going to get that much better over the course of their careers.
I disagree on Jaylen Brown though. He's putting
Mm,
up 24, 5, and 3, and he's an elite defender as well.
yeah.
And his handle has improved like incredibly. So I think that there's certain guys on these lists that are just a little bit too low. And I think ESPN for me, like it's almost like they're almost like a kid that like every time they get a new toy, they just put the other one down in the corner and it gathers dust. So it's
Mm,
like Zion was that toy for a while, and now it's LaMelo Ball. So it's like, and there's certain players that were a toy for a short time, but don't really get the push that some of these other players get. So if you look at like a Ja Morant, like
hmm.
he's 15 on this list. And
Yeah.
who's to say that LaMelo Ball is definitively going to be a better player than John Morant is, or that he's going to be 12
Mm,
spots better, you know?
yeah.
So
John Moran is an
that's
interesting case because especially watching him yesterday, um, I got the sense that he's a really great player, very great young player, but he does have shooting limitations, which I didn't realize were as bad as they are, because Memphis doesn't get the kind of publicity that other teams get. I think he's shooting like 20 something percent from three this year.
mhm.
Um, and but he is leading, this Memphis Grizzlies team to a playoff run, despite not having guys like Jaren Jackson. So yeah, it is kind of a spit in the face to say a guy who is as young as John Morant isn't getting as much love as a LaMelo Ball. And yeah, what do you think about guys like Trae Young and DeAndre Ayton and Colin Sexton and even Lonzo Ball making the list?
uh I think those spots are good for those particular players. Uh Lonzo has shown a little bit more, so I think maybe you might be able to bump him up a couple spots. Trey is one of the most offensively talented players in the league, but he has his defensive struggles, so that might be part of the reasoning why he's so low.
Mm,
But and like you said about ceilings, like I think that maybe the guys at ESPN may have doubts about his ceiling as a player, because we did see him average, I think, 29 and 9 last year, and the Hawks didn't really have too much success. And that's part of that's also because they're a rebuilding team, but maybe
yeah,
they see a ceiling on his talent, because in the playoffs, it might be hard for the Hawks to compete if he's going to be consistently hunted on the defensive end. So that
yeah.
might be part of the reasoning. I think you could definitely make an argument for Trey moving up some. Uh, but yeah, I think overall it's a list that you could disagree with. Even a guy like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, I think that I don't think that you can necessarily say that uh, certain players that are higher than him are going to be definitively better than he is in the future,
Mm.
because he's also still very young and he has so many great physical tools. So it's a list. So granted, with any list, there's going to be disagreements, especially
And did you
involved.
did
Go
you
ahead,
feel
sorry.
like anybody was snubbed in particular? besides RJ?
Actually, I had RJ down as my snub.
Okay.
I did, because he went from 14 points a game to 17 points a game, increased efficiency. His jump shot is getting better. He's playing for one of the best defensive teams in the league, so he's competing on that level as well. And he's playing for a team that's playing winning basketball, even if they don't have a winning record at the moment. But I think he's actually contributing to winning, playing huge minutes, because he's playing for Tibbs. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that RJ was my main snub. As a Bulls fan, I can't consciously look at any guys on our roster and say that they warrant being on this list. Even Wendell that got traded, I can't say him. I can't say Lowry. I can't say Kobe. And with Pat, it's too early to tell. I could see Pat being a guy that's on this list maybe in year 2 or 3, because he is, I think, the second youngest player in the league. He doesn't turn 20 until next season. So he
Mhm.
has 5 more years to be on a list like this.
Yeah.
But, I think you could potentially see him on this list. And Zach's a little bit too old. So just from that perspective, I don't see any guys, but RJ was my main snub.
Okay.